Setup to AIM Command Pro is critical to ensure proper functionality. This video is not meant to replace the operator's manual. Rather, its purpose is to act as a quick guide to answer some of the most common questions when it comes to setup. The System Setup menu is where a lot of powerful tools are. We're going to highlight some of the top ones here for you that most producers have questions about. These are also some of the easiest things that will impact system performance. We'll start by slowly going through and picking out some of the most powerful tools. Line number 1 is the controller gallon counter. The values shown for this line should match the values from the rate controller for volume. This line is resettable to 0. Doing so will also reset line 2 in this menu. If you choose to reset the controller gallon counter between fields, also reset the rate controller volume at the same time. Line 2 is the actual gallon counter. The values shown on this line should match the tank volume of the machine. The difference between lines 1 and 2 is the amount of product saved using AIM Command Pro's overlap and turn compensation features. Line 14 is specific gravity. Specific gravity is used by AIM Command Pro to calculate flow. Specific gravity refers to the density of a product or weight per gallon as compared to water. For water-based products, use 1.0. For liquid fertilizer, use 1.2. These numbers will change between applications depending on the carrier product being applied. Line 19 is the system gain. System gain changes the total gain of the system according to the same ratios of proportional, integral, and differential gains established in lines 16, 17, 18, and will change those numbers accordingly. This gain number is often used to tune sluggish or oscillating systems. The greater the number, the more sensitive the control system. You can often stabilize an oscillating system by selecting a lower number, or you can speed up a sluggish system by selecting a higher number. When it comes to adjusting system gain, there's a couple things to look for. The numbers that we can adjust the system gain are between 0 and 100, which is a wide range and sometimes hard to narrow down. 0 is going to be a very slow and sluggish system. And you'll see that here on this video example. We have the gain set down low, and you'll see that no matter how much throttle we give the machine, it takes a long time for the system pressure to build up to the right level. On the other end of the scale, we set system gain to 10, which is fairly high. You'll see here that pressure is constantly oscillating and has a hard time settling out to the desired preset pressure that we have set here. This is an easy way to identify systems that may have set too high or too low of gain and can be easily remedied by using this one setting. Line number 20 is the total valves expected. This number represents the number of nozzle valves on the sprayer, and upon power up, the system counts the number of nozzle valves reported by the VCMs or valve control modules. If the number matches what is entered on this line, the system continues as designed. An audible and visual alarm will occur after a factory reset and will continue until this line matches the number of nozzle valves on the boom. Keep in mind, AIM Command Pro cannot detect issues that may have occurred when the machine wasn't running. For example, if a valve became corroded or damaged during the winter, an error would display. AIM Command Pro cannot determine which valve is affected if the problem occurred when the system was powered off. Use the Location Setup menu to locate the nozzle valve that is not connected. Line 23 is the boom switch activation. Most systems will have a 12-volt active boom switch. This means the boom switch wires get a positive 12 volts when turned on. To turn on the key fob mode, select Key Fob Active from the selections. In key fob mode, all of the nozzle valves will be turned off and a message will be displayed on the ProView display that key fob mode is active and spraying operation is disabled. To return to operation, turn the boom switch activation value back to 12 volt active. Lines 24 through 26 are used to set the offsets for GPS. When using a NAV2 controller, the values for line 24 through 26 would be set to 0. The NAV2 controller repositions the GPS antenna to the center of the rear axle for its calculations. If a NAV2 controller is not being used, or if the GPS signal is being taken from another location, these lines would need to be completed with the actual measurements of the machine and the GPS antenna. Line 27, GPS boom ahead of rear axle. Enter the number of inches that the boom is ahead of the rear axle. On Case IH Patriot Sprayers, the boom is behind the rear axle, so this number will always be a negative value. This must be measured for each machine to ensure accuracy. Line 29, overlap distance. AIM Command Pro's map resolution is a 1 meter square grid, so it is recommended that this value be a minimum of 40 inches to ensure adequate coverage of each square in the field. If a nozzle simply sprays a corner of the 1 meter square, the system will mark the entire square as sprayed, even though it wasn't. The overlap distance value represents the amount in inches of a previously sprayed square that is allowed to be resprayed and adequately covered. Line 53, flow meter calibration. This value must match the tag that comes on the flow meter cable from the factory. If the factory flow meter is replaced, this line must be updated with the new flow meter tag value. Line 56, factory reset. A factory reset will restore all settings to the default modes. System setup, location setup, and nozzle setup must be redone after a factory reset. Ensure you have written down or taken pictures of the setups you prefer before resetting. With a properly prepared cheat sheet, a factory reset only takes a few minutes. If a major component, such as a VCM or a gateway hub, is changed, a factory reset will need to be performed. Once you have selected to initialize a factory reset, you must completely power down the system and wait a minimum of 5 minutes before powering back on. This ensures a valid reset of the system. The Location Setup button takes us to the Location Setup table. This table shows the number of VCMs, their serial number, and the order that they are on the machine. For each VCM, a table of nozzles and their measurements from the center of the machine can be seen. The Location Setup wizard can be accessed by holding the Location Setup button down until a menu appears like the one seen here. Using the Auto Setup Location option, operators are walked through step by step on how to set nozzle spacing, location of all the VCMs on the boom, which boom sections are tied to which VCM, and several other key setup functions. This should be done anytime a factory reset is done, anytime a VCM needs to be replaced, or anytime a significant change to the location setup of the machine needs to be edited. To configure the nozzles to match what is presently on the machine, simply hold down the Nozzle Setup button until a menu appears. This menu will show the individual nozzle number across the top. Below, we will see several different pieces of information. Rank, which will be either odd or even, should not change. The nozzles across the boom should alternate odd, even, etc. This actually controls which nozzles will pulse together and which will pulse separate of each other. The term blended pulse refers to this even and odd pulsing. This is what you see as the machine goes across the field. The flow value is how we adjust the nozzle to output more or less product than the other. A value of 1 is equal to 100% of the target rate. 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, etc. are increments of 10% more flow than the target rate. For example, 1.3 will put out 30% more flow than a 1. Nozzle size will correspond to the flow value in gallons per minute of the tip of the machine. Here we have an 08 tip. This can be edited to match any tip today. Valve size is the maximum flow through the nozzle body. This should not change. Aux boom and soft boom can be used for advanced setups, but aren't going to be covered today. The test nozzle checkbox can actually be used to turn on single nozzles. In the event that a key fob is unavailable, this is an alternate way to check each individual nozzle one at a time. In addition to configuring the nozzles, we can set the boom up for different applications. Here you see a machine set up to put 30% more product out of several nozzles behind the wheels on the machine. Once the correct changes have been made, the operator can press the red X button on the right hand side of the display, and they will see a menu which allows them to exit without saving, or provides them the opportunity to save the new custom boom setup to one of the 4 preset buttons that are shown across the bottom of the display. Note, after the new boom presets have been saved, by holding down any of the 4 boom preset buttons across the bottom of the display for a short amount of time, a preview of the configuration that is saved on that preset will appear. We see that preset button number 1 has a flat rate, and that preset number 2 is the custom layout that we just did, with 30% more product coming out behind each of the rear wheels. Lastly, we have several different pieces of on-screen information. We have several buttons that are around the screen. These can be broken into zones. There are 3 setup buttons on the left side of the display, 5 operational buttons across the top, 4 arrows, a check mark, and an X that serve as display navigation tools on the right hand side, and across the bottom are 4 preset boom configurations. There is a volume of information on the screen as well. System duty cycle is seen in the top right corner. This is an overall measure of the system duty cycle, and depending on field operating conditions, this will vary. System status is at the top left corner, and this is where we will see any faults. Missing VCMs, no GPS, and other serious system faults will show here. In the bottom left corner, we see our scrolling nozzle diagnostics. This information is tied to the yellow tick mark that actually scrolls across the bottom and checks each individual nozzle. This is where we will see individual nozzle duty cycles, and will also show any individual nozzle faults, if a coil is stuck open, stuck shut, or missing, for example. Our system pressure in the bottom right, when in automatic mode, will show our desired preset pressure. You'll see a red caret and a yellow caret on the left side of the green bar that indicates our pressure. The one that is red indicates the current target pressure. The yellow caret is our secondary preset pressure. In automatic mode, we simply need to use the up and down arrow keys to adjust these pressures and use the green check mark to toggle between them. In manual pressure mode, all we have to do is hold the up and down arrows to set our desired pressure. Aim Command Pro is an outstanding technology, but like anything else, if not set up properly, can cause some issues. Ensure that you are well versed in all the different aspects of the setup, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to check the operator's manual first.